What's up, everybody? It's Matt from the house, and in this video we're going to talk to you about renting versus buying and what is the better way to start snowboarding. Let's check this out. All right, a lot of people always ask when they're first starting a snowboard is if they should rent or if they should buy. And a lot of people look at the price of rentals and go, wow, it's just a fraction of the price of a board, boot, and bindings. I should just rent to try it out, see if I like it, and then buy a setup. But honestly, buying a full setup is actually the better way to go and the more economical way to go, and not just because we're trying to sell snowboards. So right off the bat, when you're looking at snowboards, it can be a little pricey, especially if you're looking at some of those higher end boards. You're looking at $500 for a board, over $200 for boots and bindings for the super good stuff. When you're starting out, you don't really need to get that high priced gear. Most of the times when you go to thehouse.com, you can actually find a board for around $200, and then you can find bindings for about $100 and boots for about $100 too. So you're looking at about $400 all in. And we do have some packages on there too, so if you do buy the whole thing all together, you get a little bit better deal, and some of those are even around $350. So when you compare that to the price of renting, I looked around the internet and I looked at some smaller areas, I looked at some of the bigger areas, and kind of got a little average, and it looks like it's mostly in that $40 to $75 range to rent a board, boot, and bindings for the day. Now, obviously, if we do an average of that, it's about $57.50. So it's gonna cost you a pretty good amount of money for one day of riding. And even if you're just learning how to snowboard, a lot of people do pick it up in one day, but most people it takes about 3 to 4 days of riding at an actual hill with some, good conditions to really pick it up. And that's if you don't take any lessons. If you do take a lesson, a lot of times people do learn really quick. So if we do a little bit of math, let's take that $400 setup, for instance, and let's divide it by that $57.50, which is that average price of renting. We're looking at 7 days of riding, and the setup is completely paid for. After that, if you're still renting, you're basically throwing your money away. Okay, so now if we look at that, you got 7 days that you have to go riding to get your money's worth out of the rental. Now, the cool thing about this is actually gonna force you to go riding more. Even if you only go 1 day a year for 7 years, you just got your money's worth. The other thing that makes this really important is that if you go out those 4 days, you're gonna figure out snowboarding. And beyond that, the progression goes way up. Snowboarding is really easy to learn. To actually progress and get better at it, it's just a matter of actually going out, and then you're gonna actually enjoy the setup, and you're gonna enjoy snowboarding, and you're gonna do it more, and now you own that setup for your entire life, basically, unless you upgrade to a different setup later on down the line. Another reason that this is really important is that when you do get rental stuff, it is very inexpensive boards that are overbuilt. They're really just meant to be something to learn to snowboard on. That's it. They're meant to be more durable than anything because they're gonna get beat up by tons of people. They're gonna get used thousands of times a year. That's another point, is that when you go riding, you're actually gonna get a different board every single day you go riding. It's super important to be able to progress, to actually be on the same board every single time. You might go out to the resort and they might hand you the exact same board, their rental board in a 155. However, they're not all the exact same board. You could be given that board that's been ridden 100 times. You could be given that board that's been ridden 1,000 times. And those are two different boards. When you go out and you ride the exact same board every single day and you own it, you do progress and you actually get better faster, which obviously makes things a little bit more fun, but it also makes it more worth your time and your money. Another thing that's nice is that every time you go riding, you're wearing your own boots. Most of the boots on the market, they actually have heat moldable liners that you can heat up and they can mold to your foot. And even if they're not heat moldable, those boots do break in and they do fit your foot better. So aside from a bunch of other people with who knows what kind of foot problems being in those stinky boots, you actually have boots that do fit your feet better, and your boots are your #1 most important piece of equipment. And then all of that aside, let's say you buy that $400 setup and you go out and you ride 3-4 times and you're like, you know what, snowboarding is just not for me. Well, the really cool thing is if you actually keep that thing in good condition, you can easily resell it for $200, which means you've only invested $200 into the setup. And if we compare it to that $57.50, you're actually still ahead in money. So you can see at the end of the day, buying a setup, yeah, it might cost a little bit more up front, but you actually can save yourself a ton ton of money in the long run, and you're actually gonna have more fun and you're gonna learn faster. Like I said, we've usually got a lot of good closeout deals in addition to all of our brand new stuff at thehouse.com. You can find those boards around $400. I mean, today I actually looked and I found a setup that was $346, and it was all stuff that would actually fit me, boards, boots, and bindings. And that obviously makes that cost versus the renting even better. But again, there are a lot of factors depending on the setup that you buy and obviously where you go and how much the rental costs. But again, in the long run, it definitely can save you a ton of money and you're gonna learn a lot faster too. Another thing that's good to note, kids stuff is even cheaper. I was definitely comparing all of this stuff to like a men's setup, something that would work for me personally. Kids do outgrow their stuff, but again, you can resell it. So it's super, super easy to actually save yourself a ton of money and maybe even be ahead in the end comparing to renting. So again, that kids stuff, it's even more economical. But if you got any questions beyond what we talked about in the video, definitely leave some comments down below. We're on there every single day trying to answer your questions. We wanna make sure we get you into some rad gear, but most importantly, we wanna make sure that it's actually gonna fit you, your riding style, and your budget in the long run. And we wanna make sure that you're gonna get out and you're gonna learn to ride, but you're gonna learn to ride quick so you can spend more time enjoying than actually learning. Also make sure to like, subscribe, definitely get that bell on too so you can find out when all the new videos drop. Head on over to thehouse.com, grab yourself a snowboard setup and get out and ride, because any day of riding is a good day of riding.